Good. Thank you, folks. Let me up. Thank you, folks. We'll make a start. So welcome everybody. Welcome to those of you here at the Midlands Arts Centre. Welcome to those of you joining us online, and welcome to the third Organic Matters Conference. And this is, I think, a really unique event which brings together growers and researchers, advisors, essentially anybody with a professional interest in organic horticulture. So this is a really key event, and we're delighted to see you all here. So my name is Tony Little. I'm a director of the OGA. Before we get started, I just need to do a little bit of housekeeping. I'll rattle through this as quickly as I possibly can. So those of you here at the venue, there's toilets on all of the floors, and they're all accessible. COVID is still very much with us. There's plenty of space in this venue, so please do use it. Certain people do need to be particularly careful and distance, so please respect people's need for social distancing. There are hand sanitizers all around the venue, so please use those as we go through the day. Catering, tea and coffee are in the catering areas, I think, where you've all refreshed yourselves this morning. Lunch will be available from 1 p.m. Again, in that catering area. In terms of IT, there's an open Wi-Fi connection, which is Mac Visitor. And if you would like to tweet or otherwise use a social media platform, hashtag Organic Matters 22 is the hashtag that we would ask you to use. We are, as I said, joined by people online as well as in the building, so it's really important that we try and keep the time so we don't leave the online community hanging around too long. We also have a really packed schedule to get through today, so please be on time for all the workshops. In terms of interaction, this event is, of course, all about exchange of views, news, knowledge. So please, we really ask you to ask questions. If you're asking questions in workshops, please wait until you get the roving mic. Otherwise, the people online will not be able to hear the questions. So wait till you've got the mic, say who you are, and then ask your question. Please keep discussions respectful. There's lots and lots of different views, people coming from different places with different ideas. It's very important that we keep the discussions respectful today, of course. And please, during the breaks, do visit the stalls, which are just close to the copy area. Let me, right at the beginning and the outset, thank our sponsors, without who this event would not be possible. So our main sponsors are DJX alongside Riverford, SRUC, UBI and Reag Tools. Very much partnership event, this conference, and particularly we've partnered up with Agroecology, Core, CSA Network, Landworks Alliance, Organic Research Centre, the Gaia Seed Sovereignty Programme for UK and Ireland, and the Soil Association. Thank you all again. This would not have been possible without you. Individual sessions have been sponsored by a number of people. So the Chelsea Green, the Vegan Organic Network, Soil Association certification. Get those words out. The Schumacher College and the Dartington Trust, with additional support from Real Seeds, Unicorn Groceries, Leary's Organic Seeds, Earth and G, Organic North, Skier Organics, Garden Organics, Seed Co-op, the Biodynamic Agricultural Association, and the Compost Club. And I hope I have not missed anybody. And if I have, I do apologise. But as I say, thank you again. It's been a great effort. As I say, your support has meant that we can be here today. Also, please let me thank my fellow OGA directors and OGA staff, in particular Phil and Holly and Lizzie, who have done all the work putting this together, and Jim Applin and Nick Marston, who through directorship, directors, and of course Pete Richardson, who put a lot of effort into this as well. So thank you all. I have been to a number of conferences recently, and I seem to always start it with the phrase, "These are extraordinary times," and it's really true. These are even more extraordinary than the previous extraordinary times I've referred to. We are in quite a unique situation, and we have, as growers, we have an enormous number of challenges: labour availability, climate change, rising input costs, the cost of living. These are really, really quite difficult times, and B here is going to speak and argue really why there's such an important need for increased domestic supply of fruit and vegetables, and the role of organic farming and growing systems in that. So many questions. How can organic growers respond to the cost of living? How can we look after ourselves as organic growers to make sure that we're mentally and physically healthy? How do we embed agrobiodiversity, agroecology? How do we achieve closed systems? So many questions that we'll be discussing today, possibly even have a few answers, but those are going to be some key elements of our programs. How do we stay true to the organic principles? And of course, we're going to address all of these through the conference program. So what is the OGA's role in all of this? We have been very fortunate to have our funding not only renewed but increased from the Sheep Drove Foundation, and the Kindersley family are here today, so thank you very much. That's really enabled us to increase our reach and our effectiveness, and we are very grateful for that. So we have that funding has enabled us to increase the staff time that we've got available by a factor of 4. It gives us a golden opportunity really to strengthen our representative work. Develop our strategic partnerships. We've got some really exciting work programs looking at online courses, engaging much more with the general public. So there's a lot of really exciting things going on in the OGA at the moment. So what can you do? You can do 2 things. One, if you're not a member, join us. Our strength is in our membership. The other is that if we're going to take this program forward, we need a larger and more diverse board, and we really need new directors on the OGA, directors that represent not only the membership of the OGA, but also the organic growing community generally. So we need more new entrants. We need a greater racial diversity. We basically need more people to join the board and help us drive this forward. So if you are interested in taking up that role after what you've heard today, do come and talk to myself or one of the other directors. So Jim, stick your hand up. Nick, stick your hand up. That's good. So yeah, do come and talk to us. That's one more that's announcement to make. So there's a number of sort of sub meetings that will be going on during lunchtime. One of the things that we want to do is to really develop the regional network of growers we've got here in the Midlands. So Jim will be hosting a meeting at lunchtime. The Kindersley family have an opportunity for a new entrant grower with about 1.5 acres of horticulture, a lot of infrastructure in place. So if that sounds like an opportunity that you're interested in, go and speak to Rosie. Rosie, give us a wave, or that'd be great. And Becky Swin and Martin Bragg are interested in a innovative farmers program looking at zone tillage. So Becky and Martin, put your hand up. Great. So if you're interested in any of those topics, go and find those people during the lunch break. That is really quite enough for me. B, let me hand over to you and take the floor. Yes, that's we are. Tense moment. Yes, there we are. Perfect.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. It feels like an enormous honour to be speaking in the open plenary. And when Phil asked me whether I'd do this, it was really an opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about what we've been doing in Land Workers Alliance for the last 5 years with the horticulture campaign, which has led to us wanting to be working much more closely with the Organic Growers Alliance and other organisations to really step into the opportunity that we've got to really expand what we're doing, not in terms of making businesses bigger, but making there be many, many, many more organic and agroecological businesses. So I think I'm going to have to whiz fairly. What's the time? That's at the moment.
Yeah,
42.
so
Okay,
15
so
minutes.
moving on here. Oh, right. So I'm going to take you back 5 years to October 2017, which is when the Landworkers Alliance and Growing Communities Horticulture campaign began. And really, part of the idea for it began at the Food Foundation's Peas Please Vegetable Summit, where Sustainable Food Cities announced a new initiative called Veg Cities. And I immediately started thinking, right, well, it would be great if every city in the UK could be surrounded by a ring of peri-urban and rural growers. And that's really one of the things that led to the vision that we've been working for ever since. Also arising from that summit was the Fruit and Vegetable Alliance, which is an alliance of all sorts of different horticultural organisations, including the NFU, British Apples and Pears, British Growers Association, as well as Landworkers Alliance, CSA Network, OGA, LANTRA. And we've been, basically DEFRA wanted to be liaising with one body rather than lots of different bodies. So the Fruit and Vegetable Alliance formed in order for DEFRA to liaise with one body. And we do that through the Edible Horticulture Roundtable, which always makes me laugh because I have a vision of a group of people sitting around a big disc of carrots, taking nibbles out of the side of it. But we do talk about serious things, namely labour, at the roundtable. And in more recent years, it's been done online. So back then, coming through into spring 2018 was the Health and Harmony Command paper, which really kicked off the Ag Bill consultation and stimulated more political organising amongst small and medium scale organic and agroecological growers. So yes, when the horticulture campaign began, horticulture in the UK was in already a pretty precarious position. Only 11% of fruits and 58% of all vegetables were produced in the UK. We need to be producing a massive amount more if everyone were to eat the recommended amount of fruit and vegetables, 64% increase, which when you think about that compared to how much we're importing, we need to be massively expanding this. And the crazy situation we realised was that only 1% of the Pillar 1 cap payments were going to horticulture when this was the thing we most needed. So finally, the supply of vegetables from other countries was mainly coming from countries that are highly water scarce. And this whole situation has actually only got worse over the last 5 years. Move on. Great. So we had, I was very lucky that Growing Communities came forward to co-sponsor me with Landworkers Alliance to set up a horticulture campaign. And together with some support from Sustain and their experience of campaigning, we spent some time visioning and came up with these 6 points being what we were heading towards. And I'm really keen now to share what we're doing so that other people buy into this vision. So we're wanting tasty, fresh and affordable fruit and vegetables for all, and ideally organic fruit and vegetables for all. Local produce boosting local economies, a decentralized supply system, which is actually the core of our vision, and I'll come on to that a bit more later. Viable livelihoods, it's absolutely essential that people can actually earn a decent living from growing fruit and veg if we're going to attract a new generation into this. And the employment's got to be meaningful as well as reasonably well paid. We're not expecting riches, but it has got to be a living wage. And finally, we need a food system where people understand about how food's produced so that they actually support seasonal and sustainably produced vegetables. So that's the goal. So since then, we've been working hard. We developed the Horticulture Renewal Programme, which is a programme that goes all the way through from recruiting people to come into horticulture and then training, farm start projects, establishing people on land, trying to land match people and campaigning for capital grants, looking at how to increase productivity. And then finally, lots of work on short supply chains, which Tony and the Building Resilient Supply Chains project at Landworkers Alliance are working on. And we work very closely with both Tony and his team and the training and new entrants team at Landworkers Alliance on this programme. We've been doing some fruit and vegetable supply modelling because in advocating for small scale growers to DEFRA, the million-dollar question is, well, if there was more organic veg, would it actually meet the demand? And that's very much work in progress. And I'm really keen that we should be doing more of that. The biggest thing, the DEFRA study tours. We've had 3 or 4 really successful study tours to small-scale organic farms and peri-urban farms. And this is actually a really powerful way of introducing the concept of organic growing to politicians, because it's not until people actually go to organic gardens that they realise just how special they are and how much produce is being produced at them. Probably the biggest thing I've been working on is the Growing Goods Elms horticulture trial, and that's actually dominated a lot of work, but also advocating for small-scale growers as part of the Edible Horticulture Roundtable has been a really big part of it. So I put this one in just because the work up till now feels like it's been the root structure of the plant of the campaign developing. And it feels like we've got to a point where we're into the vegetative phase, where we need lots and lots more people to come into the campaign and really start growing it visibly above the ground. And then hopefully we will, I think it's going to be a way off, we'll arrive at the fruiting phase. But I will allude to this later on in the talk. So fast forward to 2022, and horticulture is now seriously in crisis. As part of the Growing the Goods test and trial, I spent some time in Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire this summer interviewing stakeholders on the impact of horticulture on the environment. And I was there in August in one of those really, really hot, dry weeks. And it really was quite apocalyptic being there. There were fires that you could see smoke on the horizons. There were parched ponds, there were massive fields everywhere of really dried looking brassicas. And so this climate change, the drought that we've all experienced this summer, the labour shortages, which I'm sure you're all aware of, the production cost rises, and the fact that supermarkets simply aren't increasing their prices to growers in relation to the production cost rises. I mean, there's a lot of mainstream growers are simply stopping growing. They're shifting into growing wheat and other things. So there's actually a danger that rather than increasing our domestic food security in fruit and veg, we're going to be decreasing it. On top of which, there's the issue of peat, which this of all things really shocked me. Okay, so this one statistic about the fact that dry land growing on peat produces 24 to 33 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per hectare per year just really blew my mind. And I went and visited some projects where they were trying to raise the water table to reduce the impact, but the 24 tonnes is actually with the water table raised. So the 33 tonnes is without it raised. So even when they're doing what they can do so far to alleviate carbon emissions from peat, it's still producing an eye-watering amount of greenhouse gas emissions. There are also massive water storage and distribution areas, particularly in East Anglia. But this is the part of the country where a third of our fruit and vegetables are produced. And the whole area is highly dependent economically on horticulture. And I'm not suggesting that we're going to move away from that in total soon, but I think there's an urgent need to take the pressure off East Anglia, which is why it started to feel more urgent to really scale up. Okay, so we need to take the pressure off traditional supply areas. And this vision that I mentioned at the beginning of having a much more decentralized horticulture supply system with urban, peri-urban and rural growers in a ring around every city and in fact every market town. I think if that was scaled up significantly over the next 10 years, particularly with DEFRA putting more funding into training up a new generation of growers, but also drawing from the experience that we have, the many people in this room, in the Organic Growers Alliance, in the CSA network, in OGA, I think we could at least enable some of that peatland area to go back to being re-wetted and rewilded and reducing the carbon emissions. One of the advantages of small-scale horticulture is that although it's harder to work with grade 3 lands, many of us are working with grade 3 lands simply because we haven't got anywhere else to grow. And when you're doing more labour-intensive, intricate organic growing, you can actually make a living from it, even though it's pretty tough. Whereas a lot of large-scale growers, they won't even look at grade 3. It's got to be grade 1, possibly grade 2, or they won't consider it. We really need, well, we've got an advantage in that new entrants are actually attracted to our kind of horticulture. The fact that the NFU are saying, well, UK citizens just don't want to do horticulture simply isn't true. People do want to do horticulture, they just don't want to spend 12 hours a day for 5 months cutting leeks in a wind-blown field and doing nothing else. So we've got the advantage that we can actually attract people into our sector, and we really need to be growing a new generation of growers. So I think we're looking at a 10 to even 20-year program of growing that new generation of growers, investing in training and startup farms, incubator farms, enabling people to set up and establish, funding them to have the capital grants to invest in the infrastructure they need. And we really need to be encouraging DEFRA to think big and ambitiously about this in a very different way to the way they're thinking, which is looking at vertical farming and robotics. So I really, really believe that our time is now. In the government food strategy in June, they announced that there was going to be a horticulture strategy for England published in 2023. And while everything is up in the air at the moment about what's going to go forward from that, and the food strategy generally was a bit of a disappointment, that is one thing I've been holding on to with hope. And we've actually had a meeting in September with the DEFRA horticulture team who reached out to Land Workers Alliance and Sustain to ask what small and medium scale organic and agroecological growers needed. So we're already pushing this message that we could, we need the investment, but we could really help solve this problem. I'm really keen that over the next 5 to 10 years, we connect much more thoroughly with sustainable food cities. And with the Growing the Goods ELMS trial, which is now into its phase 2, we can really demonstrate what public goods organic and small scale growers can offer. There's just so much that our organisations can jointly do to collaborate on training new entrants and attracting new entrants into the sector. And also in demonstrating the good practice that's already going. And in terms of what organic growers can do, I would really urge you to consider organising study tours in your local area for either local MPs or just local government, because we've got to really overcome this sense that small scale and organic farming can't feed people. Actually, it really can, and I do believe it's going to be the only thing that can as we go into the future. We've got a fantastic tool in the Organic Grower magazine through which we can communicate both with each other and with the wider world. And also, I would really, really emphasize what Tony just said about joining the OGA board, because now is the time to get political, and it is an opportunity. We need the OGA to be strong alongside the Land Workers Alliance, the CSA Network, Sustain, and all these other organisations. One organisation can't do it on its own. We need all these different organisations, and we each occupy our own ecological niche in terms of the strength that we bring. So please do consider joining the board, because yes, we really need you to, the OGA, to have capacity to do this alongside us. And then finally, I would just say keep growing, because it is really hard doing all this political work and also keeping growing. But doing the growing, doing the everyday work out in the fields, out in the rain and the frost and the sun and the droughts, and providing really good quality veg for local people, that's what we need to be doing, and that's what's going to win hearts and minds, demonstrating that and keeping doing it and showing what a rewarding thing it can be. So yes, and just keep connected today, because we need to grow our movement and really step up a gear. So thank you very much for listening.
Good, thank you, Bea. I think that really, really lays out the groundwork for the conference and for the rest of today. We're short on time, so I will take 2 questions, one from the room and one from online. So any questions from the room, and just remember, wait till the mic gets to you and say who you are. Yeah, at the top there.
Hello, I'm Liz Charles from County Durham, currently retired from the office job, which was Food Durham, part of Sustainable Food Cities, and now with a very small holding and growing some fruit and veg locally. So my question is, how hopeful are you of success? I mean, I feel passionately about all this stuff, and I think it's the only hope for us personally. I'm getting more and more despairing with the current political situation getting worse and worse as to whether we're going to actually get there. And 10 to 20 years, have we got 20 years? Because I'm not sure we have. I mean, I think the supermarket shelves maybe becoming empty will be the best thing that happens to us.
Well, ideally, we can get it done a lot faster, because I agree. I mean, just this summer and the drought showed us that climate change is upon us now, and we need to be scaling up fast. The message I've been putting out is that we in this movement are going to do what we're doing anyway, whether DEFRA help us or not. But with the support of DEFRA, we can do it an awful lot quicker, and we've got a chance of addressing the climate change crisis, the biodiversity crisis, the cost of living crisis. So in that sense, I mean, I think we're all working as fast and as hard as we can anyway. Somebody told me a wonderful saying many years ago, which is that you should keep your head on the ground, your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds. And I very much hold on to that. And I think that you need to be realistic, but you also need to be idealistic. And so in a sense, I choose to be hopeful. I choose not to let the risk of failure stop me. And I think we've just got to have our sights set on that and not consider that we could not succeed, because actually it just doesn't bear thinking about not succeeding, and we've just got to head for that. I mean, I can't really say more than that because I don't have a crystal ball, but we've just all got to pull together. And to me, actually, this sense of unity is what is going to make this happen. I think there are all sorts of forces at the moment in trying to drive wedges in between movements to try and split them. And I think the most important thing is that we've got to resist those forces and just keep striving towards the goal of a really sustainable, healthy, affordable, accessible food system. So I know it's a bit of a fudged answer, but that's the best I can give you.
Right, thank you, Bea. Any questions or comments from online?
So we've got a question here, which is how can urban growers leverage local politicians to support the horticultural work we're doing? That's the question. But I'll also just pass on the comment from earlier on that, as the CSA network keeps saying, we need a CSA in every neighbourhood. That's regarding decentralisation. But yeah, so the question was, how can urban growers leverage local politicians to support them?
By organising study tours, I really would say that is the way to show people that urban growing actually delivers not just food, but actually I think for urban growing, one of the biggest things that it delivers is the public connection and public engagement and access to green space, which we've got an MSc student who's doing some research on the social and health benefits of volunteering on urban farms. And when we've done the peri-urban study tours and taken people, groups of DEFRA officials to organically and Dagenham farms, they've been really quite blown away by the fact that on a volunteer day in Organic Lee, they'll have about 100 volunteers. They give everyone a hot lunch, and we've sat down with volunteers, and there's just such a sense of excitement and energy there. And that just goes against everything that politicians and DEFRA officials are being told about the fact that people don't want to work on organic farms. Here are people who are working for actually no pay, and although I wouldn't say it's ideal, and it would be better that everyone was actually earning a living from doing work, a lot of people who volunteer, it's for a whole host of different reasons, and people are choosing to do it because they see value in doing it. So yes, organise study tours, offer a meal cooked from the produce grown on the farm, and really make the points that you want to get across to the local politicians, because it's only by seeing it that they'll really start to believe that this can work. Otherwise, they will still carry on with this myth that only industrialised farming can feed the world. So I hope that helps.
Good, thank you, Bea.